Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's video we are going to be going over I'm going to say something controversial. I think we've gotten to a point in society that is the worst that I've seen, with envy and jealousy and greed, to the point that I'm making a video about it. Envy and jealousy are very interesting topics, and biblically speaking, envy is when Satan wanted to be like God. Jealousy, envy, that's like the first iteration of sin, right? And it leads into other things, obviously. But as a society, we have gotten to a point where it's killing people's sense of self, their sense of obligation to their purpose, and honestly, like, even their style. And the video that I was going to make, and I'm still going to make it, was I was getting ready for a family event and I had like no time to get ready, and I actually felt really like I had it locked in, and I was like, I need to share these tips. Before I even do that, I was like, let's start talking about the real issue, which is that it's normal to want to be a part of society and a functional member of society, and have a good handle on your purpose. And I think probably that's where people are. I think honestly that is where the issue lies, right? So like, for example, Satan, he was like, I want to be like God. God was like, homie, what? Hold up. That's not your purpose. And I feel like you can have the same venue of purpose. Like, you can be a writer, a poet, a singer, a makeup artist, a dancer, an actor, a lawyer, a doctor, and nobody's going to take your spot, because if you're anointed for a position, that position will be yours, right? Regardless of if anybody comes at you from, what does it say? Your enemies come at you one way and they flee seven. I don't know the exact Bible verse, but that's kind of why I'm talking about this today, because I think that with TikTok and TikTok Shop and the economy, people are in survival mode, right? And so it's leading people astray. They're valuing things over humanity. They're valuing money and metrics over their soul. And while it's not bad to have a purpose and work and minister in that purpose in whatever way God has called you to do that, but people are forgetting that, like, there is only one of you in the world. One, like, that's it. That's it. And with celebrity culture, the way that it is these days, and you know, like, trends, this trend cycle, everybody is trying to be, like, for example, that girl. Who is that girl? Like, I was thinking about that. Like, what is that girl? That girl is, I don't know. She's an archetype that corporations are banking on you to invest in and try to become that girl, and then it'll be the next thing, you know? Anyway, so while I was thinking about, like, how fashion is kind of like dying, like, fashion in and of itself is an art form. It's like going to the ballet. It's like interpretive dance. It's like, you know, there's layers, and there's reasons why certain fabrics are used, and there's reasons why the hair is a certain way in the fashion show, and the makeup's a certain way, and the music's a certain way, and the walk's a certain way, and the models that are chosen are a certain way. And that's a whole other thing, because, like, that can get dark and really just sort of negative in terms of, like, body image and stuff. But the vision of why, the story of why, is somebody who comes in a creative director role, for example, and they have a vision. They know the brand, they know the audience, the target audience, they know where it's going, right? They design for the house, right? Whether that be Chanel, Valentino, whoever. they have a vision, right? And when people knock off those visions, like, I'm not talking about like JCPenney or like Forever 21 or H&M or Zara. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like when you go to a fashion show that's a big fashion house, and then the next season there's another fashion house that is riding on the coattails of an idea that was already predestined or pre-done already. Other people are talking about like, oh, this is very similar to this show. People see what I think people that don't understand, that when they don't have a like solidified sense of self, is that people know when you're not being authentic, and also people know when you're copying people, right? So how did we get here? I don't actually know, because I think everything in society is getting really black and white, honestly. So that means that there's no nuance to situations, which, I mean, some situations are like, that is wrong, that is right, where's the like confusion? But like, there are other things where I think trends are helpful because they help people feel part of a movement, of a group, of society. Gatekeeping can be helpful or it can be hurtful. And a great example of this, actually, and I was trying to think, like, if I was presented with this question and I was at the level of like public figure-ness as this person, would I then also gatekeep that information? There's a video that a celebrity, Jemima Kirk, I believe it was Jemima Kirk, she shared a snippet, and I think I heard of it on somebody's YouTube channel, and I don't know whose YouTube channel. I don't know. If I can find the video, I will like link it. But basically, this person, maybe it was a TikTok, they basically said that because they had done the work, right? So this person commented, what video? They shared like a snippet of a video, a movie, a film. And Jemima Kirk's reaction was, I'm not going to do that research for you. The internet is free. Go find out what that is for yourself. And as somebody who's like a movie buff, who like actually loves movies and like grew up like obsessed with film, I get it. And I don't think it was a wrong approach, because I do think that people want the cheat code. It's like somebody who has gone through 7 levels of hell to get to where they are, to become the person that they are, to be as authentic as they are. For somebody else to come in and say, I like that about you, 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 and then they amalgamate to make this fake persona, right? This has nothing to do with this person. This person is just taking what they think is cool. There's a space for that, but there's also not a space for that. And I understand everybody goes through things in life, and I think you can be as understanding as you can be. I think a lot of adults are very wounded, and so they go through life trying to wound other people with their own bullshit. And so we have this huge copycat culture going on right now because people want to feel accepted and they don't like themselves, and they're not operating how God made them to operate. They're not sharing their gifts like how God asked them to share their gifts. Which is why I think we are where we're at. Money and survival, right? We're in late stage capitalism in America. Western society is kind of on its last leg in the way that it operates. And I think a lot of people are just like, I just need to pay my bills. How do I show up for myself? And so there's an exchange. People are willing to basically sell their soul in exchange for money, in terms of like, they're not actually like, they're shilling things to you. They're selling you this idea. And like, as a blogger, I get it. Like, that's part of how you make your money. I think the bigger part of blogging is building community, right? And I think like Valley of the Dolls is such a great example of this. If you were in theater or dance as a kid, choir, you know how petty those girls and boys can be when they see your light, when they see that you have potential, sometimes people will align themselves with you to try to take that from you, i.e., like just trick you out of your spot, make it so unbearable that you do want nothing to do with an industry, with people, with a movement, just because they're upset that God's working through you in the way that God's working through you. Your sense of self is literally the only thing that's going to save you. I mean, God will obviously save you, but like your sense of self. So when people come at you crazy, passive aggressively, taking things that you have and kind of mimicking, because Satan is like, he steals. He steals, he kills, and he destroys. So there's that. And I was like gonna share why I think, like, what makes it easy to operate quickly in a day that you have a lot going on and you need to get ready, and what are the tips. But then I started to think, like, okay, that's helpful, but then like the other tips that I had in alignment with that were, and I will make that video, but I want to make this one first, were more along the lines of somebody who is a well-rounded person. And I think society today is like, let's just slap a band-aid on the fact that you don't have to do the work. You can just show up. If you have the right clothes, if you have the right makeup, you can just show up and fake it, and then you're still going to be empty. The whole point of like beauty and fashion and art is that it's supposed to fill your soul in a way that, unfortunately, I think the landscape of fashion, beauty, and film is not able to do these days, because things are quick. Everybody wants a quick, fast process. That's not how that works. It's uncomfortable to become yourself. It's uncomfortable to deal with your insecurities or your vices, or just sitting in silence is hard sometimes. Being honest with yourself, being honest with people around you that you love, it's hard. It's not always easy. And I think society is like very toxic for a few things. They say, you know, I think a lot of people think that having large groups around them, having a lot of money, having a lot of things around them makes them valuable. When you take all of that away, what is left? You can't take your stuff with you when you leave. You can't. It's just not going to happen. You come in the world naked, you leave naked. You come in with a guardian angel, you leave with a guardian angel. Your soul is so precious to God. So honoring God is to honor who he made you to be. And it's not about being that girl. It's about being you, you know? There's so much that I could say about this, but I really do feel like it's a big problem. A lot of people compete with people. I've never understood it. Somebody is just operating in their authenticity, and somebody else is like, well, I'm going to do that too, or I'm going to tap dance just as fast or twice as harder. Like, calm down. So I think it's really interesting that when I think back to like my friendships, I never was friends with like insecure people. I've never been friends with people who didn't want to see me win. And if they didn't, they're no longer a part of my life. I think a lot of people that operate like that surround themselves with a lot of people, have to dim their light. And so when they see you living authentically, it pisses them off, because they're like, well, I have all these friends, I do this, I do that, and why are they able to like operate with like half of what I have, or like a third of what I have, and they're happier than me? And it's because we're not placing our happiness in other people's hands, because that's crazy. For somebody to come to me and tell me who I am is diabolical. I'm going to tell you who I am through my actions, my words, my life, right? You're not going to tell me who I am, because that's crazy. And if you allow people to do that to you, you're giving your power away. It's not easy to be, I mean, it is, I guess, easy to be authentic. I grew up with parents who really focused on making sure that like I was my authentic self, always. My mom used to get me like these little quote books. I'd get them for like birthdays or Christmas, and they would just have like quotes of really successful people in them, and I would just read them occasionally, and I would understand that like to get anywhere in life you have to work hard. I was constantly doing things that made me uncomfortable, and I think a lot of people don't want to do that. They are scared. There's nothing scarier than coming to the end of your life and not try, you know? So if you want a curated wardrobe, you want a streamlined life, well, you first have to know who you are first. Nobody can do that work for you. I can sit here and kind of give you a pep talk. Anybody can sit here and give a pep talk. But if you're not willing to like sit with yourself, sit in the muck, sit and do that work where it's like uncomfortable and terrifying and sometimes really ugly, and confront all of the things that you need to confront in order to move on with yourself, move on in a way that is like productive and happy and healthy, you might have to sit in silence or sit in sadness or sit in uncomfortability to get to your now. And then also I'll share this anecdote. I used to get these, I would be doing something. So say I would be like 8 years old and I would be playing Barbies and I'd stand up and I'd go do something and I'd stop dead in my tracks and my stomach would shift. Sounds insane. And I could hear that my life, like, I don't know, like an internal knowing that like my life had just ended a certain chapter. Like there was, nothing was going to be the same ever again. Like I had evolved. Like there was no going back. Who I was 2 seconds ago was absolutely done out the window. And now I was like in a new way of being. And that feeling was uncomfortable. I remember feeling just like tetherless, kind of like I was fine. And then all of a sudden I wasn't. And then I was like, okay. And then, you know, you walk it out and you figure out what that looks like going forward. But I think a lot of people, especially young people, when we're bored, what are we doing? We're scrolling. I'm guilty of this. I love to scroll. It is my favorite. But before the internet, I was reading a lot more, and I was writing a lot more, and I was doing so many things that God created me to do a lot more. And I was more anchored. Like I feel like I'm pretty anchored, but like when you're a kid, those moments of like quiet in the summer when you're not around all your classmates and you get to have that time with family and by yourself and with your friends, like your true friends, and then you go back, you've changed so much. Kids don't really get that these days because they're like tapped into the internet. Like, what are my friends doing? They went on vacation, they did this. Like there's so many things and nuances that are like taken away from this generation. And I'm glad I don't have kids right now. Maybe not ever, I don't know. Because there's a lot of internal, I'm, you know, in my later 30s now. And there's a lot of things that I'm like, okay, well, if my kid wanted to do that, like what would the boundary be with that? Because what would the boundary be? Like, where do you draw the line? I don't think I want my kids to have laptops. I think a family computer is the safest thing to do in a household. And that was not safe growing up. Like there were things that could still happen. Cell phones, burner phone. And that's unfortunate, right? That's unfortunate. I think as we get older, as women, as men, there is a certain decorum that we need to be having. The first is to know yourself so that when somebody who is younger than you or is coming in a different package than you're used to seeing and you don't quite understand them or what they're about, you're able to clock your weirdness. Have a little think as to why am I feeling this way? Stop projecting it outward onto the person who has nothing to do with that issue. And realize that you, as an adult, are supposed to treat people with kindness, respect, and if that was your daughter, cousin, niece, and somebody your age was treating them that way, that's not okay. So we need to be the change that we want to see. This is why I'm making this video. Knowing thyself spills out in every facet of your life. It makes you a better person. It makes you a more empathetic person, a kinder person, a more caring person. You can have empathy and not care, and you can have empathy and care. These are all choices we wake up with every day. And so yeah, I think your fashion is going to get better if you know yourself. I think your makeup's going to get better if you know yourself. I think your life is going to get better if you know yourself, because you are not going to be piling things in that don't make sense for you. And you're going to be living your purpose that God put you on earth to live. Yeah, that's the video. That's my little rant, my little rave.